For every year on the Chinese New Year event in CN server, usually, there will be a new limited operator. A Sui fragment operator, or we can call it Nian's siblings. With Nian to be the first released. And the second one is Dusk. And the next one is Ling, the older sister of Nian and Dusk. That also the third eldest among all the siblings. She will be introduced in the Invitation to Wine event, that most likely will be coming to global 1 to 2 months from now. With Ling being the limited operator, also Li and Black Knight the non-limited rate-up operators. Anyway, let's just talk about Ling.
Ling と呼んでくれたらいいよ。うちの面倒な子、2人がお世話になってるらしいけど、迷惑かけてない？
Ling, a 6-star supporter operator with a summoner archetype. The second one of this rarity. She has 3 types of summons. Each summons has its function depending on what skill you use. For example, if you are using skill 2, you can only deploy the summons on the ranged tiles, and it can attack ranged enemies. Unlike Magellan's drone that can't block enemies, Ling's summon can block enemies using the first and third skills. I'll explain the details in the skills section. Let's move to the trait. Her normal attack deals arts damage and she can use summons in battle. And of course, each summon's counted on the unit limit. From the first talent on Elite 2, she can hold 5 summons and can only deploy 3 together. And if she's using a module, she can gain 3 additional summons to hold, so the total would be 8, but I won't talk about the module. Let's move to the second talent. Ling will gain an additional 3 SP and attack plus 3% when a summon is defeated. Retrieved, in this case retreated manually or retrieved when activating skill 2. Or absorbed, fuse 2 summons into a higher form using skill 3. The maximum stack of attack increase is 5, so attack plus 15% in total. Trait and talents are done, now let's move to the skills. Skill 1, for level 7. On the passive, summons can only be deployed on melee tiles. And for the active, Ling and her summons gain attack plus 38% and attack speed plus 38. The summons attack steal arts damage. When skill is activated, obtain 1 summon. This skill is the simple one among the other skill. It is good if we need a single block melee units that deal with arts damage instead of physical. With more attack speed and also buff Ling with the effect to deal more damage. So it's damage focused skill options. With a cheap summons cost. Skill 2, for level 7. On the passive, summons can only be deployed on ranged tiles and deal arts damage. For the active, Ling and her summons deal 370% arts damage to 2 enemies within attack range, and bind them for 2.5 seconds. And after that, it will retrieve all the summons units with less than 50% HP. She can hold for 2 charges, and do a burst with this skill. Both from the summons or Ling herself. This also included the bind that has a normal uptime if we look at the SP cost of the skill. Really good crowd control and arts damage burst choice with spammable options. Since it's targeting 2 enemies and we can use a summons to deploy in a separate direction. Keep in mind that the summons will only be back if it's retrieved by the skill when the HP is less than 50%. So if it's manually retreated or defeated, it will be permanently lost. Skill 3, for Mastery 3, on the passive, summons can only be deployed on melee tiles. If there are other summons within attack range, combine with them into a higher form. Basically a fusion dragon. The summons will hit multiple targets equal to their block count. It's simply the same with the O-Guard attack. Active, Ling and her summons gain attack plus 100% and defend plus 100%. Each summons deals arts damage equal to 20% of Ling's attack every half a second to enemies within the 4 adjacent tiles. And she will obtain 1 summon after the skill ends. I just want to tell you that the non-fusion dragon will attack the enemies with physical damage type. And it will change to arts damage in the fusion form. So you can choose between 2 of it depending on what enemies you face. However, even on the small form, The summons is already strong to deal damage using both physical damage and arts damage bonus for half a second to surrounding enemies on 4 adjacent tiles. Hordes of weak enemies can be easily killed. But of course, the fusion is greater to use, since the stats are higher than the small form, which means it can block more enemies and tankier. In exchange, you need a double DP cost and 1 fusion is counted as 2 units. So I would say it is expensive to use at some stage, but still worth to use. So, my conclusion is, Ling is a fun and powerful unit, as gameplay in her kits. The summons can provide DPS and tank. Useful to hold lanes from a bunch of enemies, or even a boss, also crowd control. Her overall kit is really useful in many situations. Summoners are more effective to be played with our capable brains. Doesn't mean you need a big brain to play with them, but if we try enough harder and keep making this strategy, we can minimize the operators we bring on the field when using summoners like Ling, even soloing the stages. So I'm sure she is useful for the next content event of Arknights. I do already make a showcase about her, so feel free to check it. And last, thanks for watching, see ya.